So hello friends, I am Neeraj. Hope you are doing great. So we do have a fair understanding about states and props, and we have also used use state hook within our application so far. But let us talk something in more detail about the hooks. So basically in React, so there are everything is component, as we all know. So a component is basically of two types. So one is class components and second one is functional components. So previously before version, maybe like I hope like it was 16, so was before React 16. So if we need to use something like some dynamic operations like use state, like if we need to mitigate the operation performed by use state, or if we need to do something about while the component gets rendered. So there was only one option to use to go with the class components. And by the way, like a component could have life cycle of when like component could get mount, and it could get updated, and it could get unmounted. So right, so in order to, while function components were there, and all these operations like function life cycle like mounting, unmounting, and updating, so we were unable to perform the desired operations over there on those situations. So in React 16, React people introduced hooks, so that we can programmatically we can hook we can do something more, and by attaching by hooking to the React internals, right? So for example, like use state, so use state hook, it is a hook, and all the hooks are start with, wherever any function, if you see starting with this word use, so definitely it is a hook actually. Okay, so use state, like we can control the, whenever we can control, we can create a state variable with use state. And similarly, like useEffect is also there, and that would be, we would be using, everybody would be using more frequently, and we would also be using it a lot, and I will demonstrate it very shortly, so don't worry about that. And second thing is like about the hooks are that hook cannot be called inside any conditional statement. Like for example, say we cannot use it something like, for example, inside a if. So conditionally it is not possible, and we cannot use inside a. So here it is, we are, for example, say if true, so it will raise an error that this is not possible actually. So this is one limitation, and secondly, we have to use the hook can only be a top level thing, so we cannot declare it inside some function or such. Okay, so by the way, like we do have a fair understanding about use state, but let us talk something about useEffect, because that is also very critical to any very important for any application. So similarly, so for example, say take a scenario. So for example, say you have this application, and obviously a user login would be there, and for example, say on multiple screens you need to track like whether the user is logged in or not. So it doesn't make sense to hit the API each and every time, right? So ideally, like we can do it using useEffect inside a useEffect hook. So syntax is very similar like use state. So we can go like this, useEffect, and this useEffect inside this function. So we can start with a arrow function like this, and here say for example, if we need to do a console warning, so let us go that way, console dot warn, and we will say I am from inside, let's say, use effect hook. And the moment we save it, and for the time being, so I am going to comment this thing so that you can have a better idea about what I am trying to demonstrate here. So for example, whenever our component first gets rendered, so we are getting this message, I am from inside use effect hook. Okay, fine, so far so good. And but the moment if I click on increment, or if I click on anything, so here you can see like this is we are getting this warning, I am from inside use effect hook. Why this is happening so? Because the reason being that whenever a state gets changed, this thing we know so far, that whenever there is any change in the state, so our component gets re-rendered. So we are getting this message because like whenever we are clicking any of these buttons, so actually we are updating the state of this balance variable, and this is why we are getting this warning, right? So but the thing is like for like what if we maybe we are inside the use effect, we may be, and by the way this use effect ensures that it would be executed, the whatever that is written inside this use effect hook, so that thing would be executed the moment a component gets rendered, right? So but we want it that if we want it to execute only for the very first time, whenever the component gets rendered for the first time and not after each and every update, so we can provide a empty dependency array, and in this dependency array we can also provide some variables, like maybe like if we are having some variable, and if that is true or false, so we can provide that way. Okay, so right now we have provided an empty dependency array, and now if we click on increment, so yes, so we are doing it. But if we refresh it, for example, say press R to reload, and so for the very first time we got this message, I am from inside use effect hook, and now if we are doing it, so this is not we are not getting this warnings anymore. So this is why like we have, and with this code block, actually we are telling React Native, that is ensuring that this code block would be executed only for one single time, whenever this component gets mounted for the very first time, and not whenever the state gets updated, right? So this is use state and use effect. So every React JS and React Native developer, they would be using it a lot, many more frequently, and this is a real charm actually. So I hope like you enjoyed this session, and if you have any doubts, so please do let me know, and I'll try to answer them as soon as possible. So till then, take care, happy coding.